Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to Let's Try SimCity blank. Now I'm going to call this game SimCity 5 quite often, because it really is the fifth iteration of the series, excluding, variants like the version that came out on the Super Nintendo and that sort of thing, which was actually the first SimCity that I played. I think I did actually see the old SimCity for like Commodore 64, unless I'm mistaken, at some point, but I don't think I actually got to physically play it. It was a friend's computer, and so when the Super Nintendo era came out and I saw SimCity for it, that's why I bought my SNES for SimCity, and it was a fantastic game on that platform. It was actually really, really enjoyable, and I have purchased every single version of SimCity that's ever come out, and despite some of the controversy about the always online gameplay and DRM issues and, EA kind of being EA, I, for one, am extremely excited for SimCity 5, and while I'm against pre-ordering a lot of things, I definitely pre-ordered this one because I wanted all the bonuses, all the things, everything I could possibly get. So I have not played this yet. This is going into it completely blind. I just installed it. This is the beta, which is not even the full version of the game. They're sort of stress testing the servers, so for all we know, we're going to run into some technical issues there. But yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to get started on this short scenario tutorial, and we're going to see what things are. So we're entering Summer Shoals. Press Escape to cancel any tool, even while drawing roads or bulldozing. Roads is a funny-looking word. Roads. All right, welcome Quill18, because Quill18 was previously made by you, but you lost the password and you can't possibly restore the account for some stupid reason, and EA. Alright, you're the new mayor of Summer Shoals. The previous mayor did a terrible job and was run out of town. Summer Shoals needs your help. Click OK to continue. Alright, let's get familiar. Yeah. We can middle mouse around. It feels a little odd and shaky. I think part of it is they've got this sort of tilt shift sort of focus. If you don't know what that is, in photography, it's this weird effect that you can do where you've got a special lens where you can actually tilt the lens a little bit. And it causes the top and the bottom of the frame to be slightly out of focus. And when you take a picture of a city, like a real-life city with this, it looks like you're taking a picture of a model, like a model city, the sort of thing that you would see in like a train set. So they've got that effect ever so slightly here. It's a little weird, especially when you move. You can see in the distance how blurry it is, and how, yeah, it's sort of, again, I don't know how well this will translate on YouTube, but it sort of looks like you're looking at a little bit of a model, a toy city. And that's an interesting decision. I mean, it's certainly kind of cute, but should you be encouraging the sort of fact that it's not a real city? On the other hand, it does lend it a certain amount of physicality. Not like a real city physicality, but like a real toy city. And something about the color of the buildings, they're not complexly textured. Well, that's a little blurry. The focal length is a little odd. It's in focus here, but not actually in the center of the frame, which is where I would expect it. That's actually kind of an odd decision. I don't know, but the building textures are fairly simple, and that's fine, because most of the time you're playing the game out here, you don't need the complex up-close things, but the whole thing ends up looking like little plastic buildings. I haven't been reading any of these things, I hope that's not bad. Left click and drag to rotate the camera. Really? I was also using the middle mouse button, which I will probably continue to use, because I'm used to thinking of left click as selection, and I bet you can select it. It's telling us to find the town hall. In fact, now that I think about it, okay, I can pan around with the right, which is okay. I'm sure it's all fine. So this is town hall, so apparently I can click on some sort of speech bubble here. Guess I'll get my first request. I'm Ava Stanton, your city administrator. Welcome to Summer Shoals. We really need your help. So, I can't zoom in any closer. Actually, I can't zoom in at all. I just want to see what her figure looked like. These guys are really spazzy looking. The animation is kind of crazy, but alright. You may have noticed the protesters. Our last mayor left the city in a terrible state. We're hoping you can fix it up for us. First, we need to connect to the outside world. We're cut off. No one can move in. Please fix our highway. Now, one of the things I remember from some of the older versions of SimCity, especially now that I'm thinking about it, the one on the Super Nintendo, is there were a lot of scenarios, and I'm not sure. I don't feel like SimCity 4 had much in the way of scenarios, but I might be wrong. Maybe I only played sandbox type of things. And this is not a sign that the scenario is back. This is just the tutorial after all, but I actually kind of like the tutorials. You take over a city where the transportation is all screwed up and you got to fix it up and that sort of thing. Ooh, sound effects. So, no one can move in, please fix our highway. We need to connect to the outside world, which is of course a very big theme in this particular version of the game, in that every city is really part of a larger world, and part of the reason they've got this always online feature is that the larger world really means all of the other players. They've got tons of resources, apparently, that you can produce in these different cities. You can have a city on a coast, maybe, that's got access to a lot of oil, and so you might produce a lot of oil and then sell it to the global market. Well, if all players decide that oil is an easy way to make a lot of money, the global price of oil will actually drop because of all the supply, and it will stop being financially advantageous. So you want to diversify your city, so you want to find different niches. Alright, so everyone's making a lot of oil, but there's not a lot of electricity being done. So maybe you'll put in a lot of power generation plants or windmills or something like that to create a lot of power, and so on and so forth. Tourism cities, and this is a really beautiful looking game. Alright, so let's purchase a ROAD. And we want a medium density avenue. So I can see already there's a fair variety of roads that you can build, which is quite nice. It's one of the things I like in Cities Excel, actually, is the amount of different roads you could build and really give things personality. Now, I don't know if these roads are going to have a tremendous degree of personality exactly, but it's nice to have a lot of options in, you know, how you can build things up. Of course, they've all had a lot of those. Why do I have a flat section of road there? Why did they decide to put an intersection there? Seems really odd. I like this highway connection though. The game does appear to play in a fairly high speed. Like, things zip around pretty quickly. And as a lot of people have been concerned about, the maps are not very big. Now, I don't know if this is the size of all the maps or if some are going to be bigger, but overall, there's definitely been a report that the map size in SimCity 5 is much smaller. Or feels smaller, or something to that effect. And a big part of the reason is they want to encourage this interconnectivity. And one of the things the SimCity franchise has always done is done a lot of gameplay type stuff. I mentioned this in my Cities Excel video, where Cities Excel is less about the gameplay and more about designing big, beautiful cities in exactly the way you want. Whereas SimCity, especially with 5 here, there's a lot about that sort of, you know, the gameplay, the building, the mechanics. And wow, there's a lot of camper... Oh, they're moving vans coming in. Oh, that's adorable. Families actually moving in and out quite suddenly. You probably wouldn't see this sort of behavior very often in your cities because you'll probably start off connected and build things gradually. But it does note that we can talk about the traffic here. Whereas older SimCity games, most of the gameplay or the functionality of how the cities work were very abstracted in statistics. If you put down an industrial building, it would just create X number of industry and X number of jobs, and you put down a building that would create a certain amount of people who would look for jobs. And it was sort of global. I mean, they sort of simulated some of the traffic, but not really. But here, in the new Glassbox engine for SimCity 5, everything is run by these agents. Every single action you can actually see on the map. Like, you'll see the building producing. You'll see things, well, this is the power company. It's waiting for coal. The coal hopper is empty. Things will fill up here and then will be used up over time. Whenever someone is going to and from work and all those things, they'll actually get in the car and move around. And the traffic jams you see are real traffic jams that are really being produced by these things, these agents trying to get places. They're not just simulated. The game's not looking at, you know, various roads and saying, there probably is a lot of traffic running here, so I'll make graphics of cars being stuck at an intersection. Well, here they're really getting stuck at these intersections, which is awfully cute. But that's probably part of the reason the map size is a little bit more limited, because that's going to require a lot of heavy-duty CPU processing to, you know, run all these different agents. I mean, there's so many. Look, all these pedestrians running around all over the place and doing things, and all the cars. Oh, by the way, if you don't like this blurring effect, you can turn it off. You can also make it more powerful. This is on the standard setting. I maxed out all the graphics, and actually I should show you the options list. In settings, graphics, I've got everything set to the top. The tilt shift is the option here. If you don't like the blur, you can go to less. You can't just turn it off apparently, but you can go less. And maybe I'll do that because, you know, the video is going to be blurry enough on YouTube anyway. So now Sims can come and go over the highway. Sims live, work, and shop in your city. Your city cannot grow without Sims, and they can't get here without a road. As your city grows, you can control traffic and building density by choosing which roads to lay and by upgrading your existing roads. And again, one of the things I didn't like in a lot of the older games is sometimes the simulation I would feel wouldn't always pick a reasonable traffic buildup in different areas, and so it was a lot of gaming the system of like, well, I know if I build roads in this kind of like configuration, it's going to tell me there's a lot of traffic here, but if I build it this way instead, it'll say there's not much traffic, even if it's not necessarily reasonable. Well, here, with the fact that the traffic really runs in real time and things actually get stuck in physical locations, it should feel less like sort of cheating and gaming the system. I mean, the cars may not always take the route that a real person might take, you know, to bypass traffic. I mean, real people learn which roads are busy and start bypassing it. And maybe they do. Maybe they learn that in the system. I don't know. But still, that you at least get real feedback of what's going on, and you know exactly why it's telling you there's a traffic jam, because there's a literal traffic jam. Then you've got to find a way around that. Ava wants to thank you. Head back to Town Hall. Click on the speech bubble. Alright, we'll do that. Well done, Mayor. Every town needs a connection to the highway. Now, construction trucks can build new houses and residents can move in. Once they get settled, our residents can use the highway to commute to Lucky Shores. Thanks so much. I think Lucky Shores is a casino town. It was highlighted a lot in the various preview videos that EA were putting out. I keep wanting to say Maxis, because to me, sim games will always be done by Maxis, but Maxis doesn't really exist the same way. Oh, the classic green, blue, and yellow residential, commercial, and industrial demand markers. Very handy to get an eye on what's needed. Do you need more houses? Do you need more jobs? Do you need more commerce? People want to move here. These demand bars tell you what the Sims want. All demand is pretty high, but it looks like the residential is the highest. Sometimes your residents will ask for help. Look for speech bubbles around your city to see what your residents need. Click on the speech bubble. It actually reminds me of some of the features from the SimCity 4 expansion, the traffic expansion. Rush Hour is what it's called. And there were all these little quests that you could take and literally drive around your city solving the quests, and they would give you certain perks and bonuses and things. And it was a cutesy little addition. I didn't mind it at all, and I think you could safely ignore it if you didn't like it. Lighting is quite nice. Let's see what these people want in their little mobile home. Ah, Mayor, you decide where Sims can build houses by creating residential zones. This guy kind of looks like John Lennon with a crappy mustache? I don't know. Maybe it's the glasses that's doing it, I'm not sure. Sims will build houses and move into residential zones themselves. Could you zone more residential areas? My brother Cliff wants to move in, but I don't want him moving in with me. No, of course not. By zoning, you can... I've just offended everyone from the South. I'm really sorry. By zoning, you control what types of buildings... If you hear a laugh in the background, that's Ava, who of course is a great gamer on her own right and has a channel, which I will link in the description box down below. By zoning, you control what types of buildings can develop. So click the zones button. If you're new to the SimCity genre, by the way, this is definitely the way things work. Very rarely do you build a building directly. Because you're playing as a city council. I mean, if in a town, the city council doesn't build a house. An individual like you or I buy a property and then build a house on it, or move into an existing home. All the city does is put down zones and say, people can build houses here, or people can build a shopping mall here, or people can build, I don't know, some sort of manufacturing plant here. Now, you can generally build things like police stations, hospitals, power plants directly, even though some of those things aren't really municipal things in the real world. But most of it is sort of indirect. So you draw a residential zone, will attract Sims to build houses in your city. Click to select a green residential zone. Alright. And it is apparently free to zone, which in the olden days of previous Sims version or SimCity versions, it was not free to zone. There was a cost, although it was fairly small. And theoretically, there's a cost in that, you know, you've got to spend some time doing paperwork. I don't know. So click along roads to draw residential areas. So well, that's kind of interesting. Normally, previously, you would block out sort of actual blocks, actual square zones, and then you'd usually build roads around it or something to that extent. And some of the versions would sort of auto-build roads. But here it looks like what you're doing is placing lots only adjacent to roads. You can't just plop it out in the middle of nowhere, which logically makes a lot of sense. Build the road, then drop the zone around it. You know, in a way it's slightly simplifying things, but I think it's actually simplifying things in a relatively smart way. And one of the interesting things going on here is it will encourage a somewhat more organic building style, because you're not really packing everything in like sardines. Like here, there's quite a lot of green spaces between buildings. You're putting down the roads and then applying buildings there, and theoretically things will grow to fill a certain amount of space. And we'll see. I'm going to drag along the road here, and you know, not quite so far. We're going to drop that and see what happens. Here comes a construction truck to build new low-wealth houses. Nicer neighborhoods attract higher wealth Sims. When you're done watching, click OK. Now, one thing you couldn't tell because it was, you know, not everything was enabled. I'm quite curious to see what kind of options there might be for high and low density zoning, which was something that you could do before. This would be a low density zoning, individual houses. Medium might be small apartments, and high would be high-rise apartments and condos and that sort of thing. This is reminding me of Tropical all of a sudden, which is not a bad thing at all, actually. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what kind of zoning options there might be there. Alright, so we're done watching that. Remember, to get Sims to move into your city, you need to connect to the highway and zone residential. Yeah, got it. So they're going to go around building a bunch of little houses. Your Sims will occasionally share their thoughts with you. This will help you gauge how your Sims think you're doing at running the city. Ah, there we go. Zoom in to see your Sims' thoughts. Hey, Mayor, Quill1818's really cleaning up the place. No, did you see what kind of people I'm bringing into the city? We've got Cliff. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Look, cleaning up the city. All these people have, like, trash just kicking around in front of their house. Although, I guess if I increase the land value here, then we're gonna get, you know, your middle-class, boring, McMansion-y kind of houses. Well, these are not quite McMansion-y. I don't know if we've got any of those yet. Surprised there's no white picket fence. We're ready to move on. Let's see. Well, Mayor, Sims are moving to Summer Shoals, but they won't want to live next to this. Oh, these are sort of, yeah, I noticed these are like blackened, abandoned buildings, I guess. Rubble lowers residential value and has a fire risk too. Click the bulldoze tool. I mean, hopefully these can be repopulated, but maybe they're too far gone. They won't. In previous versions, a lot of times you would see the rubble, and then it would get, and as your city got more demand and more population, they would rebuild. I hope it's not too tedious to maintain this, but this could partially just be a demo, as an example. So let's match this. Very satisfying explosion, particle effects. Oh, they're not actually physics enabled. Just fall through the ground, which is fine. I'm pretty sure having, you know, rigid body physics in this game would represent a CPU overhead that wasn't really called for. Things are looking better already. Now construction crews will build shops on this block and land value will improve. Oh, so you do have to go and clean them up before they'll rebuild them. Population panel. Yes, let's look at statistics. We all love stats. Residential population has increased. We'll track your city's growth. Overall wealth. We're mostly locals, no visitors. Wealth is mostly low, a little bit of medium. The region has 28,000 Sims. There's 5,000 Sims in our city. And yeah, things are definitely improving. Numbers. Ah, I can't scroll. Oh, probably because of this thing. Because it looks like I should be able to scroll this window, but it's not going. Boom, boom, boom. What's next? There's a factory manager who wants to talk to you about bringing more jobs to Summer Shoals. Yes, let's talk to the factory. Generic mill. Hi, Mayor. This factory is my pride and joy. Sure, it's pollutant, but we're job creators. Oh God, it's a Republican. New residents in town means new workers, so this town needs some new jobs. Residents won't want to live next to factories, but there's still plenty of room for more industry. Please zone for more industrial and commercial buildings. Alright, will do. Is there some, like, debris over here? I don't know. Yes, industrial and commercial zoning tools. So let's go and do that. Employment crisis. More workers than jobs. Yes, yes, yes. Provide jobs. Click on the industrial to start off with. Sounds good. So that's already zoned industrial, and I think I'm going to keep the industrial sort of in this part of town. Wind. Oh! See, wind is helpful because the wind direction will blow pollution away. So it's actually quite nice that everyone is kind of on this side of town because all this pollution will just blow out into the water and be responsible just for killing fish and things, but, you know, not hurting land property values, which is important. Fish are not simulated in this game, so we don't care about them. They don't vote. Alright, nice work. Remember, zone industrial to attract factories. Factories lower land value, but industry will create goods and make your city grow. Commercial zones are where your Sims shop and work. Yes, we will do that. And I still haven't noticed any ability to choose a density. Oh, there might be some stuff over here that we're just not seeing in terms of density. So commercial shops take freight deliveries from factories and sell goods to residents and tourists. And I do like that. So the factories actually create a good, they bring it here, and then people come and buy them. Makes me think of some of the mechanics that I love from a Railroad Tycoon, especially Railroad Tycoon 3. I love games where goods actually move around and you get, some proper simulation of economy as opposed to just, some number crunching in the background. So, I don't know. It's my sort of thing. That was easy. Remember to zone commercial to attract shops. Residents spend the money they earn from their jobs at shops, which makes them happy. And we probably earn some tax income from that. Well, maybe not directly, but from the buildings. You don't have time to wait all day for business to develop. You control time. Click once to switch to cheetah speed. Boom. From llama to cheetah. Alright, click once to move to turtle speed, and once more to return to llama speed. Llama, of course, a very old joke in all the Maxis games. Everything, there's llama references all the time. If we build a stadium, it'll probably be the SimCity llamas that play there, that sort of thing. Now that you've got more businesses opening, let's look at your treasury. This number shows the number of simoleons you can spend right now. Simoleons is the money in all the sim games. Here is where you see your city's revenue. So that's my current money, that's my revenue, $1,400 an hour. The number shows how much money you're earning per hour. If it turns red, you're in trouble. Looking good so far, indeed. With Sims moving in and businesses opening, you should see an increase in city income. Let's have a look at the city books. Excellent, more numbers. Oh, I love it. Tax rate, take out some bonds, so these would be loans that you can take out. Yes, income higher than expenses. Sounds pretty good to me. Some of those protesters have been grumbling that taxes are too high. We have enough simoleons now. We can placate the masses by lowering taxes. I don't know. I think I'm more of a liberal type, so we should raise taxes as much as possible. Alright, let's drop it by one and make people a little bit happy. Everyone who was upset about high taxes should have one less thing to complain about now. Let's just start complaining about something else. I know how this works. I'm Canadian. That's all we do is we complain. Complain and talk about the weather, and especially complain about the weather. Apparently we've got a plumbing problem. Hold on, I've got a plunger. Mayor, we used to have a water tower, but it was destroyed in a storm just a few months back. Alright, the town's getting thirsty. They don't like the idea of relying on another water tower. Okay. We have just a solution. Lucky Shores, the big city to the west, has plenty of water. Head to the region to make a deal with Lucky Shores. Okay, so we're going to get our first look at the region system. Region view button is over here. So, in SimCity 5, everything is divided up in these little regions. And that is apparently is the way you're supposed to think about the cities a little bit more, as less as like one map where you can build a single huge metropolis, whereas a region that, as those individual sort of towns grow, they form almost a mega city. And many cities are kind of like that in practice. You've got something like New York. Well, what we call New York is made up of all these separate boroughs. Same thing with Toronto and London. You've got all these little neighborhoods that sort of like work together to do something. Some are more commercial, some are more touristy, some are more industrial, and that's their logic. I still feel like to a certain extent it's a bit of a cop-out, and I think a lot of it has to do, I suspect, with the difficulty of simulating all the agents in their glass box agent. And probably they had to limit the region sizes to a certain amount just to sort of target a certain average computer. I'm hoping that down the road, and with this always-on connectivity, and EA recently announcing that they want to have microtransaction like all games, and the popularity of DLC, and the integration with Origin, I suspect, and this is even the case for The Sims 3, for example, there will be many downloads and things that you can purchase, and micro patches, and all these sorts of things. And these are the sorts of games that are very easy to add more content for. I'm really hoping that there will be larger and more involved regions down the road. For example, if you've got a decent computer, maybe, that's when you can get a bigger sort of city map, or I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the game is certainly lovely. There's a lot of eye candy, and I like those aspects for bringing new players into the genre, because the more people we sell on sort of strategy games and builder games, the more vibrant that sort of genre will be, and more products will come out for it. The SimCity 5 doesn't have to be all things to all people. Luckily, there's a little bit of competition in that realm now, and so you can sort of pick and choose what you want to do. Again, if you want to design really big, beautiful cities, Cities Excel is going to be perfect for that. Anyway, I'm going to cut the video right here. We'll be back very quickly with the region overview.